Hello and thanks for joining us for this special live coverage of President Park Geun-hye's New Year press conference.
And for the first time since taking office last February, President Park is due to lay out her plans for state affairs and take questions from reporters on a range of issues.
Yes, during the 70-minute press conference that is due to start any moment now, the president will first talk about her plans for the new year, centered on revitalizing the economy, bolstering national security and reforming the nation's public enterprises.
She will then take a total of 12 questions from the press, which will range from diplomacy, security, inter-Korean relations, the economy, the spy agency's alleged interference in the last presidential election, to bridging the political divide in parliament.
And this press conference comes after months of really quite heavy criticism from opposition parties and the public for her perceived detachment, really, from the people, for not communicating her policies directly to the media.
And it looks like the press conference is about to start. Let's listen in. Well, if you remember, Mark, it was the only time she held an official press conference as president was back in last March when she appealed to public about then parliamentary deadlock on her government's reform bill.
Yes, and that time, of course, she didn't actually take any questions. So this will be the first time she takes questions from reporters. And coming up during this policy speech, the president will likely propose more specific measures to stimulate the domestic economy, which is having a hard time like in many parts of the world, and efforts to create more jobs. As late last week, in fact, she talked about achieving per capita income. This is a very aggressive goal she has of $40,000 through encouraging innovation and spurring investment.
And the president is about to speak.
I will like to first talk about my plans for the new year. Honorable fellow Koreans, the new year of 2014 has dawned. First of all, I would like to wish you and your family health and happiness in this new year. Looking back at the previous year, we faced very difficult economic situations when the new government was launched. And I think last year we exerted all efforts, losing sleep, to alleviate some of the difficulties that the Koreans faced. However, I'm sure we did not do a perfect job. Despite our shortcomings, I would like to thank the Koreans for having confidence in my government. For the first time in 60 years, this year is the year of the Blue Horse. So I pledge to work hard so that the economy can move forward, so that we can build a successful Korea in which the people and the country thrive. Honorable fellow Koreans, this year, in order to help Koreans really feel that the economy is getting better, we will establish a 3-year economic innovation plan, and we will pursue this successfully. And by doing so, we will open an era of happiness for all Koreans. Furthermore, as an essential precondition to opening an era of happiness for all Koreans and to reduce potential social division and associated costs related to the division of the Korean Peninsula, we will build a foundation to open an era of unification. We will pursue the Economic Innovation 3-year plan based on 3 key strategies. First, I will normalize the abnormalities that are abundant in our society, and I will build a fundamentally strong economy. So far, in our society, there are so many irregularities and abnormalities. A case in point is the scandal surrounding the nuclear power plants. There were so many problems, but for decades, the safety of the Korean people were disregarded. Government subsidies that were intended for those in need were handed out via illegal means, and the taxpayers' money was wasted. We will right these abnormalities, and in order to build a fundamentally strong economy, we will normalize public institutions, and we will also pursue reform in tax and also the government's finances. And so we will build an economy that is based on strong principles. First of all, we will reform the public sector. Currently, the debt of the public organizations is larger than the government debt. So some public companies cannot even pay their interest with their operating profits. And this is not solely the fault of the public corporations. In part, that debt has accumulated as these public companies took on government policies. For instance, K-Water, in pursuing the Four Major Rivers project, in order to lift or ease the financial burden on the government, had to use its own financial resources. And as a result, their debt has enlarged and their business or their balance sheet has deteriorated. And we will right these problems as well. However, another serious issue is the lax management, expedient management of public corporations. Despite their financial difficulties, some public corporations have continued to extend bonuses, continue to extend excessive benefits. They have focused on enlarging their size and have taken on risky investment overseas, and they have pursued unnecessary or overlapping projects. And we will right these abnormalities. As you saw with the nuclear power plant issue, some of the test results for the parts were manipulated, and this has greatly undermined the safety of the Korean people, and also this caused great inconvenience during the hot summer last year. Also, as you can see in the Korail incidents, many public organizations have a very lax way of managing, and this has led to lower efficiency and lower competitiveness. And these were always issues that governments tried to address, previous governments tried to address. However, previous governments have failed to reform the public corporations, and I will not follow these steps, and I will write the reform of the public corporations. And the reform over the rails will be the beginning, and we will normalize and we will reform the public sector this year. Second, through the creative economy, I will build a dynamic, innovative economy. Last year, government-wide, we established the Creative Economy Action Plan, and we strengthened the venture startup ecosystem, and we also created what is called the Online Creative Economy Town. This year, we will take the Online Creative Economy Town and we will build this offline in reality. We will establish creative economy innovation centers in 17 cities across the country so that anybody who has a good idea can gain the assistance of a mentor and they can actually start a business. And we will also help them so that they can enhance the competitiveness of their startups as well. Furthermore, we will launch a private partner creative economy group or task force, and venture companies, SMEs, and large conglomerates and governments will come together to pursue creative economy, and we will give private sector a larger role in creating a creative economy. We will converge existing industries with new technology, and by doing so, we will create new values and create new jobs. For instance, we will converge science, technology, and ICT with existing agriculture and cultural industries, and we will build new products and services, and we will call this the Creative Economy Vitamin Project. And by doing so, we will help Koreans feel the effects of convergence in their fields. The energy environmental sector is a very important industry, and we need to invest for the future. I believe that climate change and other environmental issues that are global issues today can be solved based on creative ideas. And I think that we can turn the crisis we are seeing in this field into opportunity by using creative ideas. And we will also build an eco-friendly energy town. And in this town, we will use new and renewable energies that suits that particular region, and we will produce electricity and sell this electricity. And this can be a plan to resolve both environmental and energy issues. This year, we will pursue trial projects in 3 to 4 areas, and after these are successful, we will expand this nationwide based on the voluntary participation of each of the regions, and this can also contribute to the stable supply and demand of energy. Third, we will boost domestic demand, and we will build a balanced economy that is both strong domestically and also in terms of exports. Now we are faced with a situation where it is difficult to create jobs simply based on exports that are based on the manufacturing industry. It is difficult to boost domestic demand through exports. So we will expand investments in SMEs and we will help them contribute to boosting domestic demand. We will focus on 5 potential service industries, that is the medical industry, education, tourism, finance, and software. And these are areas that our youth prefer and have great potential in creating jobs. And also, in order to help SMEs and mid-sized companies to grow, we will help resolve any problems or difficulties they face based on the phase that they are in terms of their growing corporations, and we will also provide finance and tax support that is customized to the corporation. Furthermore, we will also enhance the export capabilities of SMEs. Last year, we saw the potential based on the earnings results of SMEs. We saw that the export growth rate of SMEs exceeded that of large conglomerates, and we saw that the export items also became diversified. So the exports have become enhanced in terms of quality.
In order to encourage the SMEs to make inroads to overseas markets, all the overseas market information will be provided to SMEs real time in a customized manner. So throughout the whole process of exporting, consulting services will be provided. In addition, SMEs will be partnered with large conglomerates so that they can go to overseas markets together, and the information and network owned by large conglomerates will be utilized and shared with SMEs so that they can make inroads to new markets. We will also provide customized financing support in exporting overseas construction and plant projects so that the finance can also go to overseas markets together. The service industry revitalization is the key in increasing domestic demands. In order to revitalize the service industry, we need to ease regulations, which are the biggest impediments to investment. We will look at the regulations related to investments from square one, and we will ease all the unnecessary regulations. We will also introduce the regulation quotas, so the quotas will be provided to sectoral regulations, and the President, myself, will preside over the ministerial meeting on regulation reform, so we will look at regulations on each sector for deregulation. To do that, we will form a joint task force on each sector, especially the 5 major service industries, including medicine and health, so that all the government policies on deregulation will be executed and implemented. And from the licensing and permits to the actual execution of investment, one-stop service will be provided to investors. The government will pour in all its capabilities to make sure that all these goals are achieved, and we will see the results. If the 3-year economic innovation plan goes smoothly, after 3 years, we will see our potential growth rate reach 4%, and per capita income will reach $30,000 and go beyond that and reach $40,000. Our employment rate will reach 70% and will create more jobs for women and the youth. My fellow Koreans, the key goals in our state affairs is to lay the foundation for the reunification of the Korean Peninsula. The security environment, especially in the Korean Peninsula, regarding the inter-Korean relations is very threatening. Last year, North Korea launched third nuclear test, and we are on the brink of war. The Kaesong Industrial Complex was almost closed, and our plan to reunite the separated families by the Korean War were called off unilaterally by the North. And with the execution of Jang Song-taek, the situation is very unpredictable in North Korea. Next year will be the 70th year after the division of the Korean Peninsula. In order for Korea to take another step further in a global era, we need to open the era of reunification of the Korean Peninsula, going beyond the nuclear threat, the war threat, and the inter-Korean conflicts. And we need to prepare for that right now. In order to prepare for reunification era, we need to resolve the issue of nuclear weapons in North Korea. North Korea's nuclear program, which threatens world peace, cannot be accepted and tolerated. The government will work closely with neighboring countries to prevent North Korea from sophisticating its nuclear capabilities, and we will make plans for many measures to denuclearize North Korea entirely. If North Korea takes a sincere step towards denuclearization, we can achieve the actual peace on the Korean Peninsula. And we can also achieve many goals for co-prosperity of Northeast Asian region. The government will also help North Korean citizens and resolve their difficulties and sufferings. And to do that, the government has been providing humanitarian support to North Korean citizens. This year we will strengthen our humanitarian supports and also expand people-to-people exchange and private sector exchange. The plan to reunite separated families were called off 4 days before the planned reuniting of family, and it was very regrettable. I hope that with the Lunar New Year coming up, I hope that we can resume our plan to reunite these separated families who've been waiting for 40 years. And I hope that this can be a first step this year to have a turning point in inter-Korean relationship. In order to open an era of reunification, I would like to suggest that we build DMZ World Peace Park to increase trust between the two countries, and also build Eurasia Railroad, which can be the channel for trust and peace in the Korean Peninsula. And we can take a closer step to reunification. My fellow Koreans, the government will do everything it can to achieve the potential of national capabilities so that the national development and that people's happiness can create a virtuous cycle. Especially the 5 insecurity sources, job creation, college entrance, housing, childcare, and old age retirement will be addressed. We will create an environment where each and everyone's capability can be tapped into. We will provide test-free semesters for secondary school students and vocational education. And also we will provide an education for startups for college students, and we'll provide lifelong education opportunity to the retirees and the career-interrupted women. And we will create a country where women don't have to see their career disrupted by their childcare. My fellow Koreans, I will listen to the voices of every one of you to resolve the difficulties and sufferings of our ordinary citizens. Countries around the world are preparing for a change that will change the future of the humanities, and we will take the lead in this trend of change. And this new change and take off of our national development will be the preparation for the future and prosperity of Korea. I hope that you can join forces in our plan to create a better environment for the economy. And I'll do everything I can as a president to create a Korea that is full of hope and energy. Thank you very much.
So far, the President has outlined some of her plans for 2014. We will now begin the press conference and we will be receiving questions from the press. I would like to ask press who have questions to please raise their hands.
So Shin Jae-young from Yonhap News. I am Shin Jae-young from Yonhap News. So thank you for your speech on your plan for the next year. So this is your second year after you took office as president, and I'm sure you have a lot of thoughts on your past year. So can you share your thoughts on the past year and your plan for the new year? This year really went by quickly. I was very busy with all the visits to other countries. I visited the US and China and Russia and all the countries in ASEAN and many European countries. So I had many visits to many countries, so I had a very busy schedule last year. But I also felt that we achieved quite a bit through these state visits. Especially, we made improvements in the relationship with China and Russia. Especially, there was an issue with the air defense identification zone, which could create a tension in Northeast Asia. And we worked hard to improve the relationships with related countries, and as a result, we were able to resolve this issue regarding ADIZ. Also, there were issues with Russia, very complicated issues that have been there for a long time, but through G20 and also two summits in Korea that was held in Korea with Russia, we had many discussions and talks which brought the two countries closer, and we made very tangible results. The visa waiver program was the first start. And looking back the last year, those were the results that we saw. And we've also have been working very hard to rectify all these social ills and abnormal practices that are very difficult to do so. But thanks to the encouragement and support of the public, we were able to make progress on this front. The most important issue is the economy. We really wanted to create an environment where people can feel the improved environment for the economy, but we are still we have a long way to go, but we, I think, are seeing some signs of recovery, and this year will be the year where we put more effort in this area so that we can put our economy on the normal track so that people can feel very hopeful about their future and their livelihoods. And this is my second year, and there are many goals that I have, some of which I shared in my speech. I would like to successfully implement the three-year economic innovation plan, and so that we can see the economic recovery and give hope to the Korean people.
Please raise your hand for the next question from MBC, Mr. Park Sung-jun. Good morning. As introduced, I'm Park Sung-jun from MBC. As the second question, I have a question related to peninsular affairs. You mentioned the trust process and to build a foundation for peaceful unification based on trust process. And you also mentioned the reunification or the meeting of separated families. I would like to know your plans for the peaceful reunification of the two Koreas this year. I have an additional question as well. As you mentioned earlier, in North Korea, Chang Song-taek was executed, and the situation in North Korea is very uncertain. You mentioned this yourself. And I would like to know, of the various scenarios that can happen in North Korea, what is the most serious scenario you have in mind, and how is the country preparing against such a scenario? Establishing foundations for a peaceful reunification of two Koreas is important for inter-Korean relations. It's also an important issue for our diplomacy and security. Some Koreans are very concerned about the cost related to unification, and some people are actually skeptical as to whether we really need to reunify the two Koreas. But I would like to say that unification will be Korea's golden opportunity. Recently, in the media, a very famous investor said that if the two Koreas reunify, he will invest all his assets into Korea. So this shows how much a golden opportunity lies for the two Koreas if we reunify. So in order to make a great leap forward for the two Koreas, reunification is essential. I think that reunification will provide an opportunity for our economy to make the next great leap forward. And you asked about specific measures on how we are building a foundation for reunification of the two Koreas. I have three key strategies I can share with you. First is to create peace on the Korean peninsula. I think that Koreans need to have a peace of mind, and in order to do so, we will build a strong defense system. And I think that as long as there is a threat from North Korea regarding nuclear weapons, it will be difficult to pursue North and South exchange and economic cooperation, and our joint development is very difficult to pursue. So I urge North Korea once again to give up its nuclear weapons and to become an international member of the international community, a responsible member of the international community. And if North Korea declares that it will do so, I think that South Korea can cooperate with other countries to help North Korea to go on a better path for its future. And through this process of cooperation, we can come up with new ways to resolve the issue on the Korean peninsula. The second strategy is to strengthen humanitarian assistance to North Korea. And by doing so, we hope to recover some of the lost kinship between North and South Koreans. North and South Koreans have been separated for a very long time and have been living under a very different system for a long time. So a lot of people have lost their affinity or kinship with North Koreans. Our lifestyles are so different now. And in particular, many North Koreans are living under very dire conditions. They are living under great pain. So we will continue to extend and expand humanitarian assistance to North Korea. And we hope by doing so, we will also be able to promote private sector exchange between the two Koreas. And by doing so, we hope to expand the understanding of the two countries. There are NGOs in North Korea that are very active. There are NGOs in South Korea. So these NGOs can collaborate to help and provide support in the agricultural industry of North Korea. This can provide actual support for North Korea. And through this process, we can also build a more closer relationship with the North Korean people. And as I mentioned earlier, the recovery of kinship is important. I think that this begins with consideration for North Korean defectors. If you think about defectors from North Korea, they have lived under a very different system for a very long time. So we also need to help them, to really embrace them so that they can settle in South Korean society. And I think that if they settle well into South Korean society, they can really play a pivotal role in the reunification of the two Koreas. Also, the third strategy is to strengthen international cooperation for a peaceful reunification unification of two Koreas. I do not think that the unification of the two Koreas can occur based on the efforts of the two Koreas alone. We need international cooperation and international consensus, and I think that this will make unification of the two Koreas possible. Last year, China, US, Russia, I held summits with the leaders of these countries, and I had a very frank discussion on inter-Korean relations and unification, and I can say that we built a consensus on the peaceful unification of the two Koreas, in particular the East Asia cooperative process. I think these are mechanisms that can involve the countries in the region, and this can also benefit all the countries in the region as well. And I think that this kind of mechanism will not only help us resolve inter-Korean issues, but it can also bring about prosperity in the region as well. I have one more answer for one of the questions. You talked about the scenario of the possible scenarios that might occur from North Korea. As I watched the execution or the news of the execution of Chang Song-taek, I'm sure that a lot of people, including myself, including people around the world, were able to see North Korea for what it really is. There are many questions as to what will happen with North Korea. I think that this is a question that cannot be answered definitely by anyone in the world. Nobody knows for sure. So instead of basing our actions or response on one possible scenario, we are preparing against all scenarios. And so this is the basic principle. And what is most important is to have a very strong defense posture so that Koreans can have a peace of mind in living their daily lives. And by doing so, we will defend peace. And also in the process, we will closely cooperate with our allies.
So next question, Lee Jae-myung from Dongha Daily. I am Lee Jae-myung from Dongha Daily. I would like to ask a question on domestic issues. It's been a year since the presidential election was finished, but still we have a lot of issues about the election meddling by the NIS, and the opposition party request the special investigation on the NIS. So what's your thoughts on this issue? What's your plan to respond to this opposition party's request for a special investigation? And also the reform bill on National Intelligence Service was passed. So can you give us your thoughts on that? For last year, we've been having a lot of divisions in the nation, and all the national capabilities were wasted on this debate. For this issue, I have already made clear my position, especially on my recent speech at the National Assembly. As long as the opposition party and the ruling party reaches a consensus, I will accept any consequences. But at the end of this year, after numerous discussions and meetings, the ruling and opposition parties reached an agreement on the reform bill to prevent any election meddling or political interference by the state agencies or national companies. So now we have this system in place, and we will make sure that this type of accidents or incidents can never happen again. So I think it's time that we put this wasteful discussion behind and move forward. And as we are starting a new year, all the governments, opposition parties, and ruling parties and the public will join forces to create a better environment for the national economy. And I think that's what the people want, the people of Korea want to see. As for the special investigation on NIS, I think it is still in the case is pending at the court. So I think as a president, it is inappropriate for me to mention anything regarding this issue.
We will receive another question from a member of the press. Good morning, I'm Kim Song-gol from Maekyeong. I have a question regarding the economy. First of all, I would like to talk about the real estate market. You mentioned as one of your goals boosting domestic demand. But if you look at the household assets, 80% is real estate. But however, the housing market is completely frozen over at the moment. And a lot of Koreans are expecting policies that will de-thaw the housing market. And recently, the jeonse prices have hiked. And so I would like to